I'm about to show y'all how to edit your reaction videos way faster. But in order to do that, we need to start off by creating templates. And in today's video, I'm gonna show y'all 3 different templates that you can implement right now. A lot of y'all have been requesting this video in the comments, so shout out to y'all. And as a bonus, I'm gonna show y'all another technique that I didn't even come up with until after I was editing this video, which will increase your workflow even more. Stay to the end and I'm gonna show you exactly what that is. So let me get this jacket off, man. Ain't no gatekeeping. Let's get to it. So before we get started, if you are new here, please subscribe to the channel. And if you've been here for a while, drop me a comment. Whether you're new or old at making reaction videos, hopefully the tips that I share in this video will be something useful to you. And if you feel like you have a better method, then feel free to drop that in the comments so we can talk about that as well. A lot of the things that I talk about can be utilized even if you do not have the exact same file settings or specs that I do. But for the most part, if you want to get the exact same results as me, you will want to follow along to the T. A few important things to note before we get started. I do shoot all of my reactions in 4K at 30 frames per second. And I'm also recording multiple different audio tracks. The 2 most important audio tracks that I record are the audio of the reactors themselves, separated from the audio of the content that I'm reacting to. I also have a recording of just the content that I'm reacting to separately, but I am recording both of those at the same time so that the audio syncs up. And when I get to sync that during editing, it is seamless and I don't have to try to align things manually. That is probably one of the #1 time-saving step that I do. Everything that I do when it comes to editing reactions now is about saving time. Once you get a flow for things, there are certain things that are not gonna change, and that is why I create templates for it. I'm gonna go over the exact same templates that I use and how I put them together. I know this process has saved me hours of time, and I know this process that I discussed today has increased my upload rate per month from 15 to 20 videos to around 25 to 30 videos per month. And I'm talking about long form videos. Now, I'm also using a MacBook Pro. Most of the times when I'm editing, it is on a Mac device. And I'm also editing in a software called Davinci Resolve. Now, you may be able to get a similar look and feel from other editing softwares, but if you want to follow along to the T, Davinci Resolve is what I'll be using. And just for clarification, I am using the paid version. So if there's certain effects or things like that that you may not see if you're on the free version, it could be because you're on the free version. Now, the templates that we're going to be working on today is an oval screen, circle screen, and a box overlay. All right, so let's go ahead and get this process kicked off. First thing I'm going to do is start a new project within Davinci Resolve. I'm going to call this reaction tutorial. We're gonna go ahead and create this. Next thing I'm gonna do is I'm gonna go ahead and drag over the particular project file that I'm looking to do. And the first thing I'm gonna do is go ahead and create the timeline. But before I create the timeline, I do wanna talk a little bit about the particular files that I'm using. I record everything in a MKV container. The reason I record those in an MKV container is because from time to time, I have had instances to where the power would go out or my computer would crash. And I just find that using an MKV container helps me to recover those files a lot better than any other thing that I've used, especially within OBS when I use a feature called Remux. Speaking of OBS, OBS is where I do all of my recording for my reactions. I have the footage already imported in here. I'm gonna clean things up a little bit. I'm gonna get rid of some of the content that I won't be using. So now I have the 2 clips in here that I'm gonna use. One is of the content that I'm reacting to, and the other is just our face cam. I like to have things separated just so I have more control and flexibility within the edit. Next thing we're gonna do is I'm gonna go over here. I like to keep my projects organized and create a bin called SCQ, which stands for sequence. And then now I'm going to right click and click on create a new timeline. Let's just call this reaction. Number of video tracks from what I recorded has 6, but just keep in mind we're only going to be using 2. I just put 6 here just so y'all can see the full process of how I condense it down. Next, I'm going to click on the format tab, and I like all of my stuff in 4K. And I go ahead and select 3840 by 2160. The frame rate that I record in is 30 frames per second. So I'm going to go ahead and click that, and then I'm going to hit create. Now I'm going to go back up to our source folder with the content. And first thing that I've dragged in is the content that I'm reacting to. The second thing that I'm going to drag in is the face cam of us. Now, I wanted to show you both of these because it is important. I just wanted you to get a hang of the audio clips. It may take a moment for you to be able to see a preview of the audio. This is the show. One thing that I end up doing is color coding everything, but I'll do that once I have my layout situated. So you can't see it just yet. I'm kind of waiting for the audio preview to come up, but I know in particular, there's 2 tracks that I have. I have a track that just has the audio from us reacting, and I have another audio track of the content that we're watching. So I'm gonna delete the other 2. I know where they are. I know how I've had them listed. The reason I have 6, I'll go into it in another video, is because I do live streaming sometimes and I have other audio elements that I want separated out. But as you see right here, I have the screen pulled up so you can see the difference between the content that we're reacting to and the audio of us talking on the mic. If you want me to go ahead and play it just so you can see, I will go solo here so you can see.
The speakerphone thing.
It's us talking. And if I solo out this, you can see that it is the show.
Will be joining us remotely today.
Perfect. So this is what I need to get started. Bare bones, this is what I need to get situated. What I like to do is I like to go ahead and auto sync everything. Because I recorded both of these at the same time, if I ever had an instance to where I paused, stopped, something glitched, whatever, it'll show in both of it. So the audio will be synced no matter what. So I'm gonna go ahead and raise this up to another track level, and I'm going to select everything. I'm gonna hit right click and I'm gonna hit auto align clips. And then this is an important step. I'm gonna switch this from time code to waveform. And then I wanna match track number 2. So I'm matching this by track number 2 because this is where I have the audio for the show. And then we're gonna hit sync. I'm gonna give that a minute to analyze. And then if we did a good job of making sure everything was recorded appropriately, it should auto snap together. And then once we have it auto snap together, if you wanna come in and preview, you can see that these waveforms for just the content that I'm watching only are matched up perfectly. Obviously the audio for myself is different, but that's fine because that lets me know that it's in line with what I'm watching. I like to work within compound clips. I think in Premiere they call it nested. I don't know what they call it in other video editing software, but me in particular, I like to work with compound clips because if I make a change to something, I can do it without it affecting everything else in a way that I don't want it to. So the first thing I'm gonna do is, so I don't get these 2 confused, I'm gonna go ahead and color code this yellow. I'm gonna go ahead and see where the show starts. I'm gonna make a cut there. And then this is where I go ahead and get in to start to trim the fat. Right click, call this a new compound clip, and I'm just gonna call this show. I'm gonna go ahead and color code this because if you see wherever I drag this, it drags the audio clip. I actually no longer need both audio clips for the content that I'm watching. So I'm going to unlink these. I'm going to delete this bottom audio clip and I'm going to drag this down. So now I have the show on one clip. And if you see, if I hide this, I have the reactors on another. So I like to keep things neat and organized. So I'm going to go ahead and delete this empty space and bring this to the front. And the next thing I do is I'll go ahead and trim the fat of just the, pre-conversation before the show. Let me look. So now we're straight into it. Now, this is important because now that I have this as a compound clip, I will show you one of the reasons that I do this. If I were to right click on this and click open in timeline, I have the show only here within another timeline essentially. So let's say I didn't want this widescreen view anymore. I can go in and add an adjustment clip. Let's add it here. Sorry, I know it's small. I'll fix it in a second and drag this across. And adjustment clips is something we're going to talk about a little bit later. I'll drag this all the way across. And then on the adjustment clip, with the adjustment clips, oftentimes whatever you do to that adjustment clip will affect everything beneath it. I'm going to go ahead and zoom in and make this full screen, which is again, another way that I'm altering what is being seen. And then I'm going to click on my timeline panel and go back here. And you'll see now that that has taken place within just the show only. The reason I don't want to put an adjustment clip over top of this again is because of how things cascade down. I want that crop in to only affect the show, not us underneath it. Next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to unlink things again, and I'm going to select the show and our reaction cam only and hold option and drag those up so I can get a duplication of that. And I'm going to drag that up one more time. And then I'm actually going to drag it up one more time. Now, I made a compound clip using just one clip. I can actually use that with multiple clips, and that's exactly what I'm going to do now. So I'm going to right click on both of these, hit new compound clip. I have both the face cam and the content that I'm reacting to selected, and I'm going to put oval view, and then I'm going to select another set of two, and I'm going to call this circle view. And then I'm going to select these last two here and call this square view. And so these are going to be descriptions of all of the templates that we're going to do. Right now, we're in the process of making the template, if I haven't already said it. The next thing I'm going to do is all of these are stacked on each other. We're going to talk about the chopping aspect of it when it comes to this in a minute. Right now, we're only talking about setting up the templates. So now, if I were to right click on this and hit open in timeline, all of these right now are going to look the exact same. They're going to have the show view and the face cam underneath. Again, I'll disable that track so you can see it. If I were to go back to the reaction view and hit on circle view, again, show view and face cam underneath. And if I were to go back and go to the square view, I would see the same thing. Now, remember I told y'all about color coding. When I get to an edit, I like to recognize what I'm looking at without having to actually click on it. So the first thing I do after I make my compound clips for what is going to be my templates is I go ahead and color code things again. So my overview, I'll make that lime green. My circle view, I'll go ahead and make that pink. And for my square view, I'm going to go ahead and make that tan. So now this is one of those things that if anybody else is editing after you or editing in collaboration with you, if they just do a quick preview through, they'll know that oval view is green, circle view is pink, square view is tan, the show is still down here is yellow, and your view is blue. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and work on the oval view. So I'm going to right click on the oval view, hit open in timeline. As the view implies, we're going to do an oval view. So I'm going to click on the compound clip of the show. Now this effect that I'm doing, because I'm doing it within this timeline, is only going to impact this particular instance of the show. And we're going to go over here to our color tab. And some of the stuff I'm getting into right now could be a little complex, just depending on your familiarity with it. So feel free to hit the rewind button if you want to go back. Now I need to make sure that I'm on my compound clip. There's two clips in here. There is the face cam and there is the compound clip. The compound clip is what I'm trying to turn into an oval because I only want the view of the show to be an oval, not the face cam. So with the compound clip selected, I will hit option S to create another node here. And the other thing is I'm going to be turning this into an oval. So I'm going to right click, hit add alpha output. Now there's lots of reasons for why I do this. I can go over another video talking about why it needs to be an alpha output, but I'm going to take this blue square box here, hold and click and drag it to the alpha output that I just created. And this is going to help with the mask that I'm about to apply. So now when I go over to the window tab, we have a square view, circle, line, pen tool for custom shapes that you want to create, in a gradient type tool right here. I'm actually going to click on this circle view right here. And if you look in closely, we have one that is a solid line, and then we have one that's more so for feathering. And again, modify these as you want, but for me, I'm just going to keep things solid. And then now I'm going to kind of stretch these out a little bit to make my oval view of the show. I'm going to drag down the left and right, and then I'm going to drag up the bottom and the top. Now I know you're like, hey, Adison, this is super huge. Like, I don't want it to take up the whole screen. Now that we have the oval created, right? We have the oval created. we're going to go back over to our editing tab, and then now we can begin to resize the oval that we've made by simply clicking on the show and then using the zoom in feature to make it bigger or smaller. You can do this how you please. I'm going to make it a little bit smaller. I'm going to bring this down. Now, one of the tips that I have is film with a little bit more room than you think you'll need. It helps when you're able to zoom in and punch in. So now that I have the overview created of the show, I'm going to come over here and I'm going to now begin to crop our faces in. I like to punch us in a little bit more because I got a lot of stuff going on in the room is one, and two, because it's a reaction and you'll be able to see our facial expressions a little bit more if I bring it in a little bit closer. Now, this next tip is a bonus tip. I just do it as my preference because things get to blending together so much within the screen. I like to add one layer of like, hey, pay attention here. The way I do that is by adding a little background color behind the particular content that we're reacting to. And the way I do that is by going to generator. I'll go solid color. It's a small line here. Let me go right here and I'll bring it out right here. Just as so. And then I'll put it across, and you're like, hey, Adison, everything is black. That's because the color that I have so far is black. So I'm going to toggle this. I'm going to bring this little picker here, turn this white, hit OK. And then now what I'm going to do is I know it's over top of everything right now. For this to work, I actually have to create this as a compound clip again. I typically drag this out a little bit longer just in case I use this across another piece of content that I'm reacting to, which may be longer. I'll click on this solid color. I'm going to create this as a compound clip and call this white BG, which is just going to be like a white background. And then I'm going to cut it off here. Now with this selected, if I go to the color tab, you'll see that it is now marked as a compound clip as well. Again, since we're going to put this just behind the show and not over top of everything, I'm going to add another node. I'm going to right click, add another alpha output. Again, this helps with when I'm doing the masking aspect of it. I'm going to click and drag this again so that we can get started. And then now I'm going to click on this portion here. And then now we have the crop that we're working on. However, for this one, I am going to use a lot more of the feather. And then now you see that the white is there. That's perfect, but I don't want it on the show. I want it behind the show. It emphasizes what I'm looking on. Again, you don't have to do this. This is just a me thing. You can change it purple, red. You cannot do it at all if you want to. So now if I go back to the main view, we have essentially went ahead and created our first template, which is the overview. Now, if I hide that, you see how it did not affect the other screens that we're going to be working on next, which is our circle view. So next we'll hop into taking a look at how to make the second template. Okay, we have our overview created. You can simply hide and show things just like this by hitting the disable on the right. And now we're going to focus on the circle view. So the circle view is essentially going to have a bigger screen, and then you can either do this in multiple different ways. If you're going group right now, which is what I'm demonstrating, you can have two people big and however you place the circles, which I'll probably just do both bottom rights. Or you could have, if you're one person, one big circle camera view on either right, left, center, however you want to do it. So we're going to go ahead and do opening timeline now. We have our bare bones view. Since I'm doing two people for this instance, I actually need the show in the background and I need the reactors in the forefront. For this one, I'm going to duplicate the reaction cam because I'm going to need two circles since there's two reactors right here. I'm actually going to go ahead and go to our color tab once again. The first one that I'll be reacting to is, if you notice now, we have two videos, and I'm going to do the circle for my particular face. I want to show y'all a demonstration actually, because the last time I showed y'all about me adding the alpha and y'all like, hey, why are you doing that step? I'm gonna show you why. If I were to disable both of those clips, I just see one. Come back over here to the color tab. So I know I'm moving kind of fast. If I were to just click on this masking tool and click on the circle and then put that by my face, take all of the feathering off of it, nothing happens. You'll see in this preview right here, it's like it should be feathered, but nothing happens. That is one of the reasons why I add the alpha output and then connect it. So if anybody's wondering, you won't see it if you don't add the alpha output to it. That is what gives it the masking effect rather. So I have essentially created my first circle. I'm gonna come here, I'm gonna turn this off. You can trick yourself though if you have both of these turned on, if you don't remember the process. So I'm gonna cut this one off. I'm gonna cut my other view back on, which is just a duplicate. Again, I'm keeping everything in line. And now we're gonna go back to the color tab. We're gonna add another alpha output right here. Again, with these nodes, I didn't add one on the last one, but you can add as many as you want if you choose to. This is Davinci Resolve is really good for coloring. So a lot of times people will have their white balance on one node, they have their sharpening on one node, they have a LUT that they put on one node. But yeah, so if you want to know, you can create a lot of those. So it doesn't matter which one you put them on per se. And then now I'm gonna go in and add another circle. And this circle here is going to be for a sofa. I didn't do any manipulations of the circles, so they're both going to be the same. And again, I don't want the circles placed up here, but if I were to cut both circles on, you'll see that we're both here. Now, this is the method I use. I know some other people may have a method to where the circle may track you better. And if you choose to use it, that's perfectly fine. Now, for those of you who are like, I don't want those circles at the top, I want them in the corner, I'll show you how to move those. But first, let me turn on the video. And oftentimes when I have this view here, before I move the circles, let me find what the subtitles are. I may again modify just the show within this circle template and make it a little bit bigger. And then the next thing that I'll do is I'll select the circle that I want to use. If I click on this little icon here, I'm going to be using the transform. I can then begin to click and drag the circle where I want it to be. I'll also click down here and grab on my co-host screen and drag that in the bottom right corner too. Now, that is what I use for the circle view. Sometimes if I wanted to add a particular overlay, this is just my preference. Let me go to my folder to find my textured plastic wrap that I sometimes add. Again, this is not something you have to do. This is just like a me type of thing, just because I like how it looks. This right here, perfect. I'll just put this here, and then I'll raise these up first because everything has an order. Whatever's the highest is going to be on top of everything. Whatever's the lowest is going to be underneath everything. So I'll grab me a little plastic wrap here and shift that to the bottom. And I know some of you are like, outside of the fact of it looking cool, why are you doing this? A lot of times I do things like this to manipulate or transform what I'm watching as much as possible, because again, I'm not trying to be a substitute for anything that I'm reacting to whatsoever. We're not a substitute. You shouldn't be a substitute either. So let me go ahead and zoom in a little bit further, and then I will also begin to raise up the plastic so you can see a little bit more on that end. And I am then going to go to the cropping tool of the plastic. I could either stop here. Matter of fact, if I were to just stop here, I know y'all like it's covering the show. All I have to do now is change the blending mode. So if I change the blending mode to any of these, whether it be color dodge, I like to use screen. Lighting is pretty good. I like to use screen a little bit as well. Any of these modes that you want to use, that's fine. I guess I'll try something different this time and click on color dodge, to which you can still see the show. My fault. You can still see the content, but it obviously does have something over top of it. Now, you don't have to do this if you don't want to, but if we back out, go back to our reaction, we have successfully created our circle view. And if I unhide the overview, we have our overview. I have them all stacked up for a reason that we're going to get to. But before we get to that, let's take a look at our square view. Last but not least, we're going to work on our last template. All right, so for the square view, what we're going to do is we're going to raise the face cam up above the show. I'm going to keep this gap here because if you remember last time when we created the white background for our previous layer, I'm going to create a border for the particular face cam that we're about to make. Now, what we're going to do is we're going to go back to generators. We're going to go to solid color. Another thing is, if you want to play around with something different, you can go paper. For this instance, let's just go paper instead of that, since the paper is already white and I was going for a white border anyway. Going to put the paper as our background, and I know you can't see it yet because again, the hierarchy of where things are. But if I were to hide the show, you'll see the paper right there. So now what our goal is to make the face cam smaller and to have the paper wrap around the edges kind of like a border. This is pretty simple. The first thing we're going to do is we're just going to come up here to our zoom and we're just going to test some numbers out. So I'm going to go 0.7. That's not bad. Let's go 0.65 right in there. So for our paper, before we do this again, because I'm not sure if I want to use this again in a different way, I'm just going to go ahead and create this as a compound clip too. So I'm just going to call this paper border and we're going to crop it to size. And then now we're going to apply a crop to this and let's go 0.7 on this one. We'll probably come in a little bit more. Let's go 0. I want it to hug it a little bit more. 0.68. And that is not bad. But I don't, the right and the left look a little bit too wide for my likings. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to actually zoom in here a little bit. I'm just making minor modifications. I'm going to zoom in here a little bit and I'm going to add some cropping to the right. And then I'm actually going to slide the whole thing over to make it appear a little bit more evenly distributed. Slide it over a little bit more. There's that. So now we have our border applied. Let me go ahead and fit this back to the screen. But it's still a little too busy. So my goal with this particular view, I'll kind of break it down at the end, but it's still a little bit too busy for me. So what I'm going to do is bring this up, bring the paper border up. And now I need one more element to me, in my opinion, which I feel like may help this a little bit more. What I'm going to do first is I'm going to zoom in the content in the background, because this particular view is less about what's happening in the content and more about our dialogue, but still letting the viewer know that what we're watching is still taking place in the background. And then I'm going to go grab another adjustment layer. I'm going to put this adjustment layer underneath the paper border because I only want this to affect the content that we're reacting to. So I'm going to go ahead and drag this over to match the duration of everything. I'm going to click on the adjustment layer. And then in the effects, I'm just going to simply search for blur and then click on open effects. And then I can either go lens blur or Gaussian blur. I think I'm going to experiment with lens blur. And if I put the lens blur over the adjustment layer, again, it's going to affect everything below that layer, which the only thing below that layer is the content that we're reacting to. And I'm going to increase the blur size just a little bit. I'm going to increase the blur size just a little bit. And then now, as you see, you can see our face. And if I just scrub through real quick, you can still see us clearly, but the content that we're reacting to in the background is blurred out. One of the key reasons that I like this particular screen is because sometimes if you're dealing with something that's gory, gruesome, or that you may not want to show a lot of stuff because of your comfortability or your audience's comfortability, or because there's just some stuff you can't show on YouTube, this screen right here allows you to still get a feel for what may be happening without seeing everything necessarily. This is what this will work for. Even if you wanted to, you know, go down here and turn down opacity a little bit, you could do several different things to make modifications to it as you see fit. This right here has a little bit more of a faint background, especially if you don't want it competing too much, but still showing different variables of things that you can do to modify or change what it is that you are looking at. So if we go back to our main view, again, we can look and see that we have our square view, we have our circle view, and now we have our oval view. Now that we have these views, I want to click everything and I want to go ahead and link them together. So then if I begin to move these things independently, it's all going to go with one another. So let me go ahead and Command Z. I like to do things in stages. Now you can pick it as you want to. Sometimes people like to cut, change camera angles, and then add a sound effects all in the same vein. Honestly, I don't always use the same method. I get bored sometimes, so I may switch it up. But if I just begin to cut through some of this, again, my hands are on J, K, and L. I can have another video where I talk about hotkeys and all of that stuff. And I just kind of scrub through. Now if you're working with proxies, because it's in 4K, it works a lot better. One thing is to note, if you're dealing with high quality angles such as what I'm dealing with here, you may experience a little bit of lag. So, and the reason that is because I have everything stacked up. Sometimes the things that helps combat that is if I disable some of the tracks, which this is going to come into play a few different times. When I get to cutting, if I start right here, I'll show you. When I start cutting,
That might have been one of the top 10 intros. All right, let's see what you got. Anything fire.
When I cut, nothing that is an angle that I'm keeping gets deleted. If I want to switch angles, I will simply actually not disable them from the left hand side. I will disable them by clicking on it and hitting D. So then anything that is grayed out won't show, and anything that's over top will be the primary angle. For instance, if we start here, we see that main angle there, and then when it switches to this, we see just the square view. So as I zoom out, and if I were to begin to go through, and I may toggle all of these with proxies, things will work a lot quicker. I may cut the fluff, take that, remove that there. As I just come through again, my hands on JK and L, coming through, removing that. Let's just go to the middle. Sorry, I'm gonna bounce around and get y'all to some actual something with some show in it.
It looks like he could have probably been casted for the Joker too.
Cut that. Cut this space out. So now another example is if I want to show, instead of the oval cam on this view, I'll disable the oval cam and I'll show the circle view. So if I click on something, hit D, I can toggle between the view, and then I will just have, for this instance,
He could have probably been casted for the Joker too.
oval view.
Would have laughed. I would have cried.
Then we go to the circle view. Now, so for anybody who's edited or created a reaction video before, from time to time upon your initial upload, you may get a copyright claim on your video. This is why I do not do destructive deletions, because once I get the time code of where the area is, I can easily go back into my edit and toggle something on or off. I can go on my editor, see where the issue is. Let's say it's just like, hey, you're showing too much of the show right here. Then maybe I'll go in and turn off the oval view, turn off the circle view, and I just may use a square view. Now it's time to get to that bonus tip that I was telling you all about. But before I do that, I want to show you all what a fully finished edit looks like if I were to do it using the method that I just showed you. And by the way, this Severance show is I'm addicted. I ain't gonna lie to you. I'm addicted. Shameless plug, man. Go check out your boy reactions to it, and then tell them that you just check it out, man. All right, let's give y'all a view of a reaction that I just wrapped up. It's a view of something completely cut right here. If you want to see from start to finish what that looks like, this is what a project that is completely cut looks like. So now that I've showed you what it looks like if I were to fully chop with all of the templates lined up this way, let me show you how to clean things up. And we are going to use multicams to condense every single view into just one view on the timeline. In order to do this, I'm actually going to go ahead and undo all of the little minor chops that I did so that we can get through this a little bit easier. So give me a second. I'm going to undo all of this. And don't worry, we're going to put all of it back. Just give me a little moment. Now that we have everything dragged back out, what we're going to need to do is locate the place where we created our template set. And I will go to that area. So what we're going to do now is select circle view, oval view, show, and square view. And then we're going to right click. We're going to select create new multicam using selected clips. And because everything is the same duration, all I'm going to type in is reaction multicam. And then we're going to make sure the option of clip name is selected. And we're going to, this is by default selected. We're just going to uncheck move source clips to original bin, which this will just create another folder inside here, but I'll just keep them all outside. Uncheck that. Then we're going to hit create. And if we did this right, all we got to do is drag this clip on our timeline now that we just created. And it should be the exact same length as our templates that we have created. Now, this is where the sauce comes in. Now that we have drugged this onto the timeline, we can now go in and delete all of our templates that we have created. Let's go ahead and color this one just to stay in line, and we will drag this down. Now, I still do have our camera view underneath, and I'll talk about why that is in a minute, and I'll talk about why we're about to delete that as well. So within this view, I know you're like, well, hey, what happened to all our templates? If I were to right click on this and click switch multi-cam clip angle, you'll see that it has all of our timelines within this one view. And if I click on just our show is there. If I right click and click on a square view, our square view is there. So now we've condensed all of these things down to one angle, and I'm going to add one additional step to that. I'm now going to copy and delete our view of just the camera angle, and I'm going to drag this down. Now, I still have it in my clipboard. So if I right click on this, you'll notice again that we have a compounded clip, but this is a multicam. If I click on open in timeline, I have our square view, show, overview, and circle view. What I'm gonna do, since it's the same length and duration, I don't have to worry about it. I'm just gonna drop this here. I'm gonna raise this up, and I'm gonna put it to the very top. And again, if it helps you, you can go in and color code these as well. But if we just were to unhide, you'll see that this is a compound clip full of other compound clips, but this is a multicam, so I'll show you why it looks a little bit different. If we go back to our reaction now, if I were to right click on this, you'll see I now have angle 5. Now this is magic, because now as I begin to cut, if I want to go to another angle after I make a cut, I'll link these back together. After I make a cut, if I move it forward, I can right click and change the camera angle or the view that I want right here again. And if you notice, from here is one view. Then after I made the cut and switch camera angles, then I have the square view, and I can keep going about this. Right click, go over to oval view now. So then we have our square view. Now we have our oval view. And some of you may be wondering, well, how are you able to know which one it is if you don't want to just right click? If I double click on this, I also have a quick view of all of my options right here as well. Now, by default, I keep my single viewer up, but if you were to click on this button here, because you want to know what camera angle you might want to be, which is available at all times. If you keep this, if you toggle this view right here at the very side, which is goes from single view to multi-view, you can have an idea of what your camera angles are that are available to you. That is a bonus tip, man. This is going to save you so much time, and it's going to make your editing look so crisp. Now I'm going to undo most of this stuff, and we're going to go back and talk a little bit about how to manipulate or edit your audio. A lot of times, if you were to begin to cut, and let's say right here, there's something going on at the same time, for the sake of not having lag, I'll go ahead and disable some of these views so you just see overview.
What is this deep in the building to where they got to create a...
So if you notice, as I was talking, the audio underneath the show was kind of competing. What I do is, instead of doing a disable on audio too.
What is this deep in the building to where they got to create a maze?
What I will do instead, as I hit Command Z, is I will use something called the ducker. Now, what the ducker does is you can point it to an audio source and say, hey, when this audio source is playing, turn down the volume of said audio source. So to apply the ducker, not to an individual clip, but to the whole track, I will simply select on the space where this is A2, where the show audio is. I will select this space. I will select ducker, and I will say, hey, the source that I want you to listen to, and then adjust volume. If you hear volume on this track, is audio track number 1. If we look here, audio track number 1 is where this audio is. And then you can say, hey, adjust it. Oh, let me go back. Click, make sure you click on this. Duck the level by whatever dBs you set it to. Let's say 9.6 dBs. For me, this allows for me to save time by not having to go in and cut the audio on and off every single time I'm talking, and allow it to automatically do it for me. So now if we play this back, watch how it smoothly transitions to ducking the audio once I begin to speak.
What is this deep in the building to where they got to create a maze?
So the other element of it is then it gradually goes back up. This is probably hands down one of my favorite features, and hopefully it's going to get copyrighted as I'm doing this. If you notice, there's music playing. The other element that you can use, which at this point in time, I just recommend that y'all don't play with music, y'all. I can also click on this track and use something called the AI Music Remixer. On the AI Music Remixer, you can remove voice, drums, bass, other, or guitar. Now watch as I just click on other, and you'll see the difference when it plays. Watch this. You've seen a little bit. Now we still hear a lot of drums. If I click drums, now watch the difference. Not much at all. So I really like this because it may be an element to where somebody's talking over an instrumental and I don't want to kill the voice. I just want to kill the guitar. I want to kill other elements that are, music elements, and I want to kill drums, but I still want to hear whoever's speaking speak, and I can keep that with voice. The last element in here that you can hear is the bass. So now if I were to completely remove the bass, we shouldn't hear much of anything at all. Perfect. Does it sound a little bit weird? Yes, but sounding weird is, in my opinion, better than getting a copyright claim. So now as I progress through there, this is one of the things that I do. So now it applies to this whole track just because I applied this AI Music Remixer to this particular track. Now, when it comes to globally increasing the audio, you can do that here as well because this is for the entire track level. So if it was too low, too loud, you can then come in and do that stuff here and it'll cascade across this entire track. Because all of these things are stacked on top of each other, it does add a lot more processing power, specifically when you're either playing back or rendering. So one thing with this particular technique, I will say is a con, is if there's tracks underneath, once you get done doing all of your cutting, if there are tracks underneath that you are not using, I would highly recommend disabling the tracks that you do not plan on using so that the render time or the playback speed can be a lot quicker. And then when it goes into sound effects and things of that nature, after I do my cuts through, I may do another breeze through just to look through. And then I may then go in and add sound effects and things of that nature at the end. And then last but not least, I didn't mention this. If we hit on this deliver tab, this is where I'll go in and put in all my settings for the render and exporting. The last thing that I want to talk about that I implement in the videos is adjustment layers for crops in pre and post show conversations, which you can also use throughout the reaction as well. My biggest thing is once I get to using methods that I know I will use again and again, create an adjustment layer for it. If it's a one-off type of thing, I still might create an adjustment layer for it. Let's go back to our timeline. Let's actually go to our post-show conversation. I like to sometimes crop in on a particular speaker, either to emphasize what they're saying or to emphasize what another person's, reaction is to what somebody's saying. So with an adjustment layer, the same way we added blur, we also can add a crop to the adjustment layer that is only affects things that are underneath it. So for this one, I want to have a crop in view on, let's say, me. So I'll increase the zoom. Then I'll use this transform tool over here to position this adjustment layer. And I want to show you again, I'm only affecting the adjustment layer. So if I were to disable this clip, you'll see it's not affecting the actual clip itself. It's only affecting the adjustment layer. And I do the same thing with my adjustment layers that I do with any other thing. I color code them. So I'll color code this one orange. So I just know in the back of my head, whenever I see an orange on the timeline, that's my crop. And if I were to make a crop for my co-host, I can take this adjustment layer, duplicate it, color it to blue, and then the only modification I would make is switching views. So then if I were to play this here.
But when he went out for lunch.
Then I have two adjustment layers that are already there. So as I start to cut, once I get to the post-show conversation, I may keep both of these in my clipboard. And then if I were to start here.
The other element of it is, so first off, to clear everything up.
And then I will just go ahead and drop. Let's say I drop it. And then I may delete the one I don't need.
the other element of it is, so first off, to clear everything up, but it's 10 out of 10. I'm not gonna lie. For me, it's the interest level, and normally.
And then I may drop it again, and then I just might use a blue one this time, drag it across, and just only encompass the area that I want to, which
I'm like, I need to see some action.
Which he hasn't talked yet, but I was trying to give you an example of him talking so you can see. Let's see if I have another one.
You know, I'm on.
So I hear he's talking. So then I can drop what I have in my clipboard, and then
You know, I'm more of an anime guy.
And then of course I can drag it to the direction that I need.
Anime guy. Yeah.
So then that's how I use adjustments, especially for things that I plan on doing quite a bit. Hopefully this helps. And if y'all do something creative or different with it, let me know. For me, this saves me a lot of time, especially if I already know the particular views I'm going to go with. And especially if I need to make quick corrections after I get a failed video back, I can go exactly to the time frame, say, hey, they said I'm showing too much here, so let me delete the view showing it and switch to another view. And we have paused on a very interesting view right here. All right, that wraps up this video. So hopefully this video was helpful to y'all. If it was, drop me a comment and let me know what your favorite part of this editing technique was. And then let me know what the next video y'all would like to see is.